Hey, how's it going, folks? Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Coach's Corner, live here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. I'm your host, Nate Mullins. I'm joined by the Wizard, Greg Kinn, on the ones and twos. We got a couple special guests alongside me here. First, we'll start with Coach Joe Wyant, the head football coach at Gibsonburg. How we doing, Coach?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And all the way to his left, we have Glenn Owens, the defensive coordinator and offensive line coach, correct?
Correct.
All right. How's it going, Coach?
Great.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to have you guys on. I've been trying to track you down for a couple of years to get an interview, but I'll tell you, Coach, you're kind of one of those guys that you stay to yourself, don't you? You're not really you're not one for the camera, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not for the camera.
Well, let's talk about your team. Before we get to the start to the season, I want to go back to the offseason. I want to talk about your offseason program because, you know, we talked about a little bit off the air. We talked about Connor Smith and just the impact he had on the program. But, you know, there was a lot of big shoes to fill, not just Connor. Talk about just what you had to replace from last year, the team in general going into this year, and then the expectations.
Okay, yeah, we lost a lot of good guys. We lost an offensive guard that was first-team Ohio and a tackle that was right beside him on the right side. He was honorable mention All-State. So we lost two really good guys. And then we had a nice group of role players that played offensive. The tight ends did a great job blocking. I look at it now, we miss even him. We had guys that really did a job and bought in and wanted to block for Connor and do all that. So we knew it was going to be tough this year. We do have a nice group of freshmen that come in, and we do start, like this week, we're starting 4 on offense. And we got 2 on defense going to start. So but we got a nice group of sophomores and juniors also. So we got a nice combination. Our downfall, if we have one, is senior class. There's only 2 seniors in the class that start out of the 3 guys we got. They only had 2 when they were in junior high, or 3. Mm-hmm. 3 in junior high in 7th grade, only 3 in 8th grade. So we didn't really lose them. I don't think we ever had them.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And it happens.
Yeah, it's a basketball
class.
I think it's a basketball class a lot, and maybe it's part of it. But anyhow, it happens. But we got some nice kids right now, and we're going to get better. Our schedule didn't help us, obviously, coming in, playing the first 5 games that we have. They're very tough. They're, 13-3, the 4 teams we played already, and we were lucky to sneak one out and pull one out against Seneca East, who I know in your preseason I watched it, and you guys picked them to be the upset team that might be able to get Carey.
Sleeper team?
And sleeper team that get Carey and Colonel Crawford. So we were really happy to get that one.
Absolutely.
We sort of stowed that one away and played pretty well and good enough to do it. Our defense played really good that night, getting turnovers. So, but we're sitting at 1-3 right now, and then we're going to play, like I said, Oboe's ranked 10th right now, and Edison's ranked 11th in Division 5, and Ottawa Hills, who I think is very good, lost their only game. They lost to a state champ from Michigan, and I think they're 15th sitting. So we played some pretty good teams, and now you got Calvert, who's number 9 ranked this week and on a really good roll.
Yeah.
So our schedule's not to our favor in a way to start how you'd like to start your season, but our kids are still hanging in there and playing tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, they hung in there tough last week against a very good Hopewell Loudon team who's put a lot of points on a lot of teams this year already. Coach, this is your 4th year at Gibsonburg, right?
4th year as head coach. I was there 1 year before that.
That's right.
As an assistant. I came over from Eastwood.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I was at Eastwood for 18 years, I think, with Coach Rutherford. And it was really good timing, and it was nice going to state finals. We were in state finals in 17. Then Coach Owens was there, too. He coached there as a line coach. Then he had a son that was going to become a 7th grader the next year, so he wanted to watch his son play. So he went back. He teaches at Gibsonburg. I'm retired. I'm done with everything.
You were a wrestling coach at Eastwood, right?
Yeah, I was a wrestling coach.
Hall
I'm
of
also
Fame wrestling coach.
Well, yeah, I'm lucky got in that a few years ago. I also the softball coach there for the last 15 years too.
Yeah, that's really cool.
We're pretty good in softball too, but but Coach Owens went back. He teaches there, so he went back there. Coach Lee came in and got the job. He got Glenn back in coaching with him. The second year, Coach Lee, he got a hold of me and Coach. They invited me to come over, knowing that Coach Lee was probably going to leave it that year. So it was tough. I talked to Craig Rutherford, who was a head coach at that time. Jerry was an assistant, and told him I was going to give it a try, and they welcomed me to try it. If I didn't like it, I was welcome to come back and get my job. Following year, I went over there. The kids were good. I really enjoyed the first year I was there, and I thought, yeah, this is a good place. So I told him I'd try to stay, 4 or 5 years if I can make it at my age. But Coach Owens stays on. Coach Owens, the first year, was the offensive coordinator, and he was Mike Lee's offensive coordinator also.
Nice.
The 2 previous years. And then 2 years ago, him and I switched spots. I was defense the first couple of years, and we switched sides of the ball.
So the offensive philosophy, I want to ask, where does that come from? Where's the originator of the, obviously, we can go all the way back to the history of football for the originator of the wing T, but where do you guys get the principles from?
Well, I coached, years ago I was at Lakota for quite a while, where I was wrestling coach there for 26 years, and I was football too, some. I was head coach there, and then when I left Lakota, I went to Oak Harbor for 3 years and coached with Gary Quizino, who's an Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
And they wing T. Well, we played all these teams that did the wing T. Me and I always wanted to do it, but I never had enough guts to do it. And but after with Coach Quizino, I learned a ton because he's a great guy. And then I went back to Eastwood. I was coaching wrestling. Coach Rutherford offered me defensive coordinator job. So I went back. I said bye to Gary, which it was tough because he's a great guy. And then I coached with Coach Rutherford, was the defensive coordinator by about, I don't know. And then when I went there, he wanted to change his offense from the run and shoot, and he started changing it over right around then. And then when Jerry got involved, he gets involved head over heels. He studies more football than anybody I know. And if he's going to run something, he goes right to the person and figures it out. So Jerry and I worked together for whatever. And then last couple of years there, I was coaching 3 sports. I went to the freshman program my last 2-3 years there. But on Friday nights, I was still on the headset with Jerry. And then even with Craig at the state finals. So I enjoyed my time. It was great, and they're good guys. Now, Jerry Rutherford's coaching for me this year, too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, his son left and went back to Anthony Wayne.
That's got to be a treat for you. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he's coaching our offense. He's the head offensive line coach this year. Coach Owens is helping him, but he was the previous year. That frees him up a little more time to get his defense stuff done. But Jerry does a great job. He's mellowed out. He's not like he was at Eastwood with the kids, but he's not the head coach, so he don't have to be. But yeah, he loves these young kids, and he's teaching. He's a teacher, and so.
Coach Owens, I got a question for you. Let's talk about the offensive line. Obviously, is kind of your side project, right? You're more focused on defense right now.
Now I am, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that defense. You got 2 freshmen, and you got a couple of seniors this year. How do you make this work? So, I mean, obviously you got some youth that you got to figure out how to work in and get some experience, but is it frustrating at times to see them just kind of make mistakes and you're like, you just got to let it happen because it's part of the process?
Pretty much. I mean, last year we struggled in the secondary because we played a lot of young kids, and all those kids are now back. So I feel a little better in the back end, but now all the front 6 guys, really never played before.
Yeah.
So they're either sophomores, freshmen, or, a first-year junior that really is starting on the defense. And so there's some frustration, obviously, on Friday nights for me, trying to get them to understand that you just can't run in there, and you got a specific job to do depending on what our scheme is for that week and that. And they're struggling a little bit. And but I think overall they keep getting better at it. They keep understanding a little bit more and more each week. And I think if we keep, repping it in practice and talking to them about what they're supposed to do, I think we're getting there.
All right. So with this defense, you guys have this unique offense, and obviously you're trying to get looks during practice. How do you practice for some of these spread offenses that you have to face when you don't have exactly that kind of scout team to match up with?
I think we do pretty much exactly what the other teams try to do to replicate what we do. They can't.
Exactly.
It's extremely tough. So, we try to run some routes with some kids that, we don't throw the ball that much, so they don't understand that kind of stuff. And so it's extremely difficult. And I just, stick with what we try to do and understand that the other team's doing the same thing, trying to figure out how to stop the wing T. So
yeah, I've seen it's a head scratcher so many times with teams when you guys are hitting some of these plays, and it's like, how is this happening? Like it can be frustrating for a defensive coordinator to watch something like that. But from your perspective, I mean, obviously you've got the offense, you know what your offense is, but you guys do such a good job when it comes to, this Calvert team, for whatever reason, you've kind of had their number since Steve came over there. Now, I don't know if there's anything special that goes into that game because he came from Gibsonburg, or if it's just you understand his schemes, or if it's just your scheme doesn't match up well with theirs. But it's been a favorable advantage for you guys over the past 6 years. Talk about what goes into this matchup. Just from a defensive standpoint, what do you guys do to prepare for this one?
Well, I'd say our number one thing is that our offense is our best defense.
Yeah.
And being former offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, the longer we have the ball, the less times that they have it, less time, less snaps, anything we can do to limit how much time they have the ball really helps us. And then, we just try to disguise a couple coverages maybe, if they're going to throw on us, and then really work to stop their couple 2-3 really good run plays. We can't stop everything, so we really focus on what we think is the things that they're going to try to do against us most. But again, it all comes down to if the offense can control the football and we can take time off the clock and score, that's our best defense.
Absolutely. That's the wing T in a nutshell right there. You keep the ball as long as you can, keep their offense off the field. So, Coach Wyant, I want to talk to you a little bit about your offensive game plan for this one because, like I just mentioned with Coach, you guys do a great job defensively, but really what it comes down to is that offense. You guys execute to perfection in every matchup that I've seen between Calvert and Gibsonburg. It's been just a machine with this Gibsonburg offense, and sometimes it just makes kids look out of position, and they're not really out of position. Just that offense sets that up to make it look that way. It's just, sometimes it can be a head scratcher as a play caller because I'll think this kid has the ball, but actually this kid's running off to the side with it, running in for a touchdown. As an offensive coach, what is your game plan when you have to face a team like Calvert? Is it just like any other game? Do you just treat it like any other game, or do you have to specifically game plan for each team? Because the way I see it with this offense, it's not saying that you don't have to run it based on what team you're facing, but you just run your offense. Am I right?
Yeah, we're pretty much. We got our base plays that we're going to run every week. We're going to run butt sweep. We're going to run bellies. We're going to run belly sweeps. We'll throw 4 or 5 times maybe when we want to, not when we have to. And it's hard. Now, this Calvert team, I think, is a little different than the last 4 years I played them. We've been pretty fortunate when we played them. But this year, they're bigger. They got some talent. They're going to be the biggest team we've played.
Yeah.
They're bigger than even Hopewell, who Hopewell's really good. They're much bigger than than Edison was, and they're D5. Edison had a bunch of quick guys that just fired off the ball on both sides. But I think this team that Steve has this year is for real, and a team. He's got everything. Great quarterback, 2 good running backs. He's got receivers, and he's got huge guys up front that have grown up, and they're sophomores. 2 of them, I know, sophomores, and Recker, I think, is a senior finally.
Yep.
And so
Bajent's a junior. I mean, they got a lot of size on that line.
They got a lot of size, and we're just average size, basically. But our best thing is we run this offense because all our blocking is on angle blocking.
Yeah.
We don't base block straight ahead very often. We got guys coming down, crossing. Everybody blocks down. We kick out. That's what it is. And it's hard for all these other teams to replicate what we're doing too for their practices.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. To
right.
make their JVs to do what we do. I hope they can't do it.
Not in a week.
just like we can't run the spread offense and all the time with our kids,
right?
JVs. So we just got to move the ball and like Coach said, move the ball and hopefully we score a little bit and we slow them down a little bit that way.
I think the key for this one for you guys and for anybody that wants to have success against this Calvert team is you're going to have to figure out a way to slow them down in the first quarter because they have gotten out to a big start on teams this year. Right now they're outscoring a competition 54-0 in the first quarter. So that might be the key. If you can get out ahead and maybe get a little bit of a lead going into that second quarter, maybe getting ahead of some of them younger guys. I mean, I don't know because this team looks legit. They really do. I've seen them multiple times this year. They look legit. They really do. But they've always had a lead in every game they've played this year. The 54-0 lead to start out in the first quarter, through 4 games, that's a pretty telling stat to why they're so successful. How do you slow them down in the start?
Well, if we can move the ball, that'll slow them down.
That's exactly what I like to hear.
That's what we have to do. Now, can we do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't had a lot of success so far this year offensively. We haven't scored that many points. I don't know, 31 in 4 games. So we haven't had a lot of success. Again, we're in trial and error, and we lost. Like I said, we got 2 linemen out this week. We lost another one, indefinite. I don't know when he is. He had some issues at the end of last year season, and he had surgery on his back, and he's having some back issues. So we lost him this week, and we lost the other kid 2 weeks ago with a sprained knee. So we're filling it in. A freshman, we filled him in with another freshman. Now this week we're taking a sophomore, and filling him in with another sophomore, but this one hasn't had much playing time on offense. So we're getting down to we have 32 kids, but we only have 17, 18 that is ready to go on the field on Friday nights too.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get a little thin. We had one injury. His son, he probably won't play offense this week. He'll just defense if we can get him back. He sprained his ankle last week. So hopefully he gets back. That's another one.
It's not the kicking ankle, is it?
No.
All right.
No, it's not the kicking leg.
Good. That kid's got a boot.
We just got to score more points so he can kick.
Yeah.
But, we filled him in with another freshman. But, again, this kid's a good backup quarterback, our freshman. He's going to play the wing spot for him this week.
Nice. So, I mean, if you had to say, what is your strength on this team? Like, what do you think is the strength of this team so far? Whether it's offense, defense, what position group in particular, anything?
Well, right now, I really think our defense has played pretty well, considering all the changes we had. I do. I'm happy where the defense is. Like, we won the Senecas game because the defense got 3 fumbles, and 2 of them were strip fumbles, and they also got an interception. And it was in our territory, or a couple of them was on their side, As soon as they got turnover, we scored. That's when we scored.
That's big.
Everybody got enthused, and the young kids got enthused, and we had a couple nice little drives and that helped us. But the defense played pretty good. Going into the season, the only people back, I can say, and the coach don't like me to tell it because I say it, our defensive backs are all back, and they are athletic kids.
Yeah.
Now, are they going to make mistakes and people pick us apart? Yeah, it's going to happen against good teams. But they're all athletic kids, and they have 13 games under their belt from last year because they all played.
Yeah.
So, that's probably our strong point is our defensive backs. I would hope, but overall our defense played much better than our offense. Our offense just hasn't clicked. But they're good kids and they're good athletes. We just haven't been consistent, or we made a couple penalties, and we're not the type team that can take a penalty on second down and all of a sudden be, second and 15. We don't have a lot of 15 plays.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do have a couple of really good, talented defensive players. Talk about Reese Walby. He's leading the SBC River in tackles right now, and that's coming from a freshman. That's got to make you feel a little bit proud. I mean, just a little bit, right, maybe?
Yeah, Reese is one of our done a really good job. He's always been a quarterback all his life. I actually had a tough time beginning of the year to decide on which guy was going to quarterback between him and Camden Mooney. And Camden was our quarterback last year as a sophomore. But Reese, we plugged him in a little bit as running back because he's so athletic. So he's backup quarterback. He's going to start running back this week. He's done a great job. He comes up and hits, and I think he's smart. He knows where to be on the field.
Yeah.
As of right now, he's been he's a really good basketball player. He's a good baseball player. The kid's around an athlete. His dad was a really super player back in the late 90s. Coach, you coached him. His dad in the late 90s. So you add anything about Reese?
The only bad thing is he leads the league, but he's a safety, so that's not usually the best thing. So.
I was going to bring that up now.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. But he comes up. His role is though he can come up a little more of the two safeties.
I've been looking for a kid like him to fill that spot for the last couple of years, and we've finally found one that can make the plays from there. And he comes up and does some things that helps us out a lot. So I think that's part of the reason he has a lot of tackles, because he does read pretty well and he understands what his job is, and he does come up and make the tackles, not just because they break loose or something. So.
Yeah. And, I mean, you got to have a guy like that that's not afraid to get his nose in there. Stick your nose in there and you got to get dirty sometimes. You got to make those plays. So what's the plan defensively to stop Harry Schultz? He seems like he is just on fire this year. Got a really good connection with Billy Klaus. They have a lot of good receiving talent. They have probably two of the tallest kids that I've seen at receiver with Carter Wolf and Billy Klaus, and then Schumacher is a speed guy down the sideline. They've got a lot of weapons that you have to respect. Oh, and then there's Jacob Rumback and Cal Warnham at the running backs. I mean, but talk about Harry Schultz. This kid has been a starter here since his sophomore year. Now he's coming into his senior season, and he's really seeming like he's kind of taking that next step. What do you got to do to stop him?
Well, it's going to be difficult because if you watch him on film, he throws the ball before the guy is open a lot of times. Like, he knows where he's going. I mean, that may be by play design, obviously, but he lets go of the ball before the guy sometimes makes his break, or, a lot of quarterbacks in high school, they wait till the guy's open. He's pretty good about figuring out when he's going to come clean and throws him the ball pretty well. So he doesn't waste any time. And he's got an arm because he can drop back and let it rip.
Oh, yeah.
The sideline for sure. And
he's not afraid to fit it in there either. He'll throw it in between a couple defenders if he knows his guy can go up and get it.
Yeah, he does that. I mean, down the sideline, he'll throw it deep. And, when Klaus is 6'4", whatever he is, he can go up and get the ball from, short defenders. And they do it over and over again. You watch, they're big plays. I think we were looking at today some film of their last game and, just some big plays at their touchdowns. 20-plus yards every time, and it's going to be tough, I think, to control him and contain him. Hopefully, he doesn't run too much. We keep him contained inside, and hopefully we can cover the pass if they do throw it up.
I think it really starts up front with that team, though. Coach, you talked about that offensive line and that just the beef that they have up front. Now, they're coming at you out of a 5-man front this year. It's a little different look than what we're used to seeing with this team because they have that 3-man, that defensive interior that they can really plug up a lot of holes. They're absorbing multiple blockers with a couple of these defenders down low. That frees up these linebackers to make big plays like Carter Wolf, Carter Cook. These guys are really making some big plays off the edge and up the middle. Is there something that you can do to neutralize that? Do you have to take two guys to block one guy in certain instances? Because, that's what I think a lot of teams are doing, and Calvert's taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think we we try to change up our blocking schemes a little bit depending on how they line up to us. Last year, obviously, they ran that 50 type front or 3-man front with the 3 big guys against us last year. It looks a little differently this year. It looks more of like I was telling the coach the other day. It looks like how Maslin runs their 3-4. But last year they were more of a bare front look.
Yeah.
This year they offset their guys a little bit, like the guys that Maslin do, and so we got some ideas of how we're going to try to block it differently if we have to. That's I think the key to our offensive line and moving the ball is getting our kids to be able to adjust to how they line up. Because, again, we don't know how they're going to line up against St. Paul. They're in a 6-man front, so back to their old 4-4 type stuff where they walk their linebackers up. So we don't know if they're going to do that because obviously they could. St. Paul runs double tight and pounds the football, so that maybe that's what they want to do. Or maybe they'll do the 3-man front like they did last year and some of the stuff they're doing this year.
Yeah. Well, coaches, I really appreciate your time here tonight. Do you have any shout-outs, anything else that you want to talk about here before I let you go? Because, once again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you probably want to be able to watch or listen to the other show that's going on. You got another coach and some kids that are going to be on tonight here in just a little bit. So, once again, do you have anybody you want to give a shout-out to here?
I don't think so. But, again, I think our kids, we're going to be good another year or two, really good, I think. So I don't. But right now we're still fighting to find our thing. Freshman fullback. Now it's Connor's brother.
Yeah,
which he's tough. The Walby kid's really good. The offensive lineman. We had 2 freshmen starting again this week. Then the one other freshman that's out. When you put all them guys on the team together in another year or two, they're going to be, maybe we'll look like Calvert then.
Yeah. I think so. Honestly, you're building something here, Coach. And sometimes these smaller programs have these waves where, there's not a lot of seniors in one class, but then there's a lot of freshmen coming up, and you just gotta bear through those couple of years to get to that promised land.
So I think we'll be back where we were like last year.
I think so. I do too.
It's going to work on it. We're not going to quit.
We're
going to work at it.
That's what I love to hear. Thanks again, Coach. Appreciate your time. Thank you. All right, folks, you've been watching the Coach's Corner, and if you've made it this far, please help us out. Do us a favor, share the video, but also follow, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're getting close to that 2,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. Once again, thanks to the coaches for joining me today. Thanks to Greg Kinn, the Wizard, for keeping us on the air, and thanks to the great staff here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery for hosting us here on Heart of Ohio Sports. Have a great night, everybody.